Hi, I'm Melody Hagaman, and I teach computer science, and I've also taught middle school science and coached Project Guts clubs after school.
What's the setup of your class in general?
In my computer science classroom, have about 30 computers with 15 tables, all against 3 walls of the classroom. And the computer screens all face in, so I can see all of the screens at one time. And there's 2 computers at each table so that students can sit in pairs. So they're all set up for driving and navigating. And in case they have any questions, they have neighbors on either side as well.
How long did it take you to get kids to kind of get into a rhythm in your class?
We spent the first week really focusing on procedures and routines and driving and navigating and the attention signal and what I expected from them while they were programming and while we weren't programming. And they really got the hang of it within the first couple weeks.
We know that some of your classes are actually pretty big, close to 30 kids, and we're really wondering, how do you manage such a diversity of learners in one class period?
The first thing is setup of pairs. So I really try to pair students. I'm not going to have my 2 weakest students together, but I also don't want to pair the really weak students with someone who's going to get frustrated for not moving as quickly. So I kind of strategize and have someone that's going to be able to help a weaker student and just play on their strengths and weaknesses. So I spend a lot of time thinking about who I pair students with. I also just set up and prepare a lot. So for every assignment that I'm going to do with programming or where we're on the computers, the students have a clear task list. We call it a progress monitor, and it's just a checklist of what they're supposed to do first and so on, all the way through, complete with what they're supposed to do if they finish early, so that there's no one off task the whole time, but everyone has a sense of what they're supposed to do.
And typically, how many tasks on the progress monitor?
They start off with just 1, 2, or 3, and they get progressively longer, up to 6 or so. Once students are comfortable with the basics, then you can kind of roll all of those into one as the first task and then give them a set of clear steps for the next portion and things that they can check off as they go so they feel good about their accomplishments.
Is there a progression where you start to see kids go from, needing a lot of teacher help to being more independent? And how do you manage that?
Well, I definitely see a progression. The students start off and they know probably nothing about coding if they've never done it before. Most of them haven't. And so they need explicit instruction in exactly what to do. But once they've done it once, even just with one sort of block, that carries over into another program very easily. They catch on really, really quickly. And so there's really a fast progression from needing every block and a picture or an explanation of how they go together to being able to use blocks that they've used before just by telling them, okay, this is what you need to accomplish, to giving them an overall goal and then creating a project completely from scratch.
What do you do when you have 10 groups and their hands are up waiting to ask you a question?
First of all, I never have hands up because I have a cup system. And so they have their red, yellow, and their green cups. And if they have a really important question and they're really stuck, they stick it on red. If they have a question but it can wait, they stick it on yellow, and otherwise they're on green. And we have kind of a classroom culture where it's expected that they ask 3 people before they ask me. So they ask their partner, their neighbors on either side, and if they have another friend in the room or someone they feel comfortable with, they can ask them as well. And chances are that student will answer the question. But if I do have 10, say, red cups all at once, it's really important to me to kind of assess the situation, look at what they're doing, and just give them a hint or real quick feedback and something that they should try, and then move on to the next group. I don't stay there and try to solve it with them or walk them through it, because that's not building problem solving skills. And also, there's just one of me and everyone would be waiting a really long time. So I try to give them a useful prompt, like maybe you should look at this section of your code, and then I move on. I never try to spend more than 30 seconds with a group unless they're having a really major issue. But I have had some suggestions of people who have come in who tried the strategy themselves, who said they keep a record, while they have the students keep a record of every time you help someone, write down what their problem was, how you helped them fix it, and have them sign it. And then they give them extra credit or a grade for it once they've filled out like 10 or so.
Yeah, do you see that kids tend to gravitate towards one or a few people in the classroom, or does it tend to be spread out in terms of getting peer help?
I think initially with any problem, their first go-to is the person sitting next to them or on the other side of their partner. Um, but when that's not successful, there will always be 3 or 4 kids in the class who, always seem to pick up on it really fast, and that the other students will go to. The fun thing about that is those aren't always the students who are traditionally really successful in the classroom. And so it's kind of nice for them to have the opportunity to shine and, be the center of attention, everyone asking them the questions and them knowing the answers.
This is always happening in your class at all times, or do you have one strategy that you kind of introduce and then another strategy, uh, or is this something that you teach right away?
This is pretty much the majority of the class time. Every once in a while, I need to use lecture or stop class and kind of show them directly what to do. But I think even just allowing them to work at their own pace, even if I'm giving them direct instruction in how to put together a graph or something, I can do that on paper and give that to them, and there's still an element of problem solving and allowing them to kind of work at their own pace. That's better for me than standing up in the front and them trying to do it with me, or them watching it and then trying to replicate it from that point. So most of the time is spent with the students actually following instructions and building what they're directed to build, or answering questions using the things that they've already built. So they'll always have a progress monitor, some checklist of things that they're supposed to do, and they work independently. And then I'm just there to help them if they have any questions.